Hi, this is Randy, and this is going to be kind of an unusual video. I just stumbled across this a cipher on YouTube by Nemo Spec, which I'm assuming is an anagram. I'm going to try that, but I thought I would run through what I do to try to solve something. So this was posted one day ago. It's called the cipher. It says a piece of the new world. I'll try to put a picture up maybe. And I'll go through the steps I do to try to solve something like this. And if I can't solve it, I just won't post this. And if I do solve it, I'll post it to show you how I went through the steps to solve this. So hopefully at this point I can edit in what the picture looks like. Okay. So the first thing I would do is just kind of piece together what we know. And what we know is that there's numbers between 1 and 65, and there are 73 characters. And then I did a frequency analysis, and I'll hold this up here. So there's the 3 lines, and it adds up to 73 characters. And then I counted all the numbers, and then I added those up to make sure they add to 73. And the reason I do that is you always use a checksum so you don't miss anything. And as you can see, I did make a mistake here because this added up to 72, and I was like, crap, I missed one. And so I went through the whole thing again and found the one I missed and added it up to 73, which is the numbers here. Now I'm just looking for other clues that are outside, and the song playing in the background, let me confirm this. It sounds like they sampled an Enya song. I thought it was Anywhere Is. Make this louder. I thought it was Anywhere Is, but Anywhere Is like my favorite Enya song, and this really sounds like the intro to Anywhere Is, but they're not actually playing any words. It's just kind of the organ music. Okay, other things that we know, I'll pause that for a second, is in the description, it just says solve it, have it. And there's a link to a Google file with the same picture that's in the video. One person posted, can you give more context? And the reply was, can be solved with this alone, worth solving. Which part, the cipher or the phrase? So I'm sure this person's not going to answer too many questions. Some other things we know is that there are 3 6s. Well, 3 6s that are modified. 1 6 is in the number 64, and it has an asterisk above it. 1 and 2 are standalone 6s. One has looks like the letter I in it. One has a cross with a pathway in it. And there's a 9, which is an upside down 6, with kind of looks like a stylized skull face in it. And if you download the file from the link that she gives, you can tell that these, that the picture was made and then those were added after the fact. And so, I mean, you can just tell it's a different inking on top of the numbers. So they were trying to call attention to these numbers for some reason. That might be a divide between words, or it might be skip these, but that's another thing that we know. The other thing is, when I did my statistical analysis, whenever I do something like this, when I counted the numbers 1 through 65, that just rang a bell. Something, and I don't know, that might be just my imagination, but 65 rings a bell. And sometimes I ask for help. Alexa, is 65 a prime number?
No, 65 is not a prime number.
Alexa, what are the factors of 65?
65's factors are 1, 5, 13, and 65.
Oh, that's interesting. 1, 5,
I'm
13,
not quite sure how
and
to help
60.
you with that.
So 5 times 13 is 65. Yep, that works out. That also rings a bell. 5 times 13. Yeah, that's ringing a bell. But another thing I noticed in my, so I wrote down the factors here. And then one thing I noticed too is if you look at how the numbers are grouped, there's a high, you got 3s and 4s in the middle here. Lots of 1s and 2s. And then there's a big area here. Let me get up. There's a big area here where no numbers, hardly any numbers have been used. Whenever I see something like this, the first thing that jumps out at me is a Beale cipher. But with a Beale cipher, you need a key. And the person did state that everything can be solved with this alone. So, don't know if it could be a Beale cipher. A lot of times when people do Beale ciphers, it would be, whatever it is, it would have 65 words in it. Or 65 letters, possibly. But if you look, when someone's doing a Beale cipher, if you look, because it's grouped more towards the beginning, and then there's big spaces at the end, when you do a Beale cipher, especially if you do it by hand, it's very time consuming and very tedious. And what happens is people start to do the Beale cipher and they get tired of counting all the way to the end, so they count the letters towards the beginning over and over again, just to make it easier, to make it go quicker. And so like things near the end are things towards the end like this they don't get to, because they're they might have counted to the end to get an E, or count to the end to get some letter, and then they're like, oh, I don't want to count all the way to the end again. So they start, grouping towards the middle, and they start grouping towards this. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. So I'm going to do some number crunching. If it's a Beale cipher, there needs to be a key. So a piece of the New World. Everything you need is here. I'm going to Google a few things. Google a piece of the New World. 5 times 13, that rings a bell. 65. I've seen that somewhere before, so I might try to look up that. And then the next thing I will do is I'm going to try to anagram a few things, because some of this doesn't quite make sense. So I'm going to pause it at this point, and I'll do some number busting, and if I come up with something, then I'll post this. I'll add some more. So I'm back, and a lot of things happened between this cut and the last cut. One is I fell asleep, which happens when I use my brain a lot. And the other is I went shopping and I deep cleaned my kitty litter boxes, because I have two cats. But I did want to talk about a few things I didn't talk about before, and I meant to. And that is frequency analysis. We all know that the most used letter in the English alphabet is the letter E. And so when you do a Beale cipher, most letters, or most words in the English language, begin with the letter S. So you end up with not a lot of words beginning with the letter E, and you end up with a lot of S words that you don't need. And that could be, that could be pointed out when you're doing the number crunching. Did I show you this? The number crunching, where you have, like, these are the first, if one is the first word of whatever the Beale cipher is based on, and you go through to 65, and you can see that they use number 8 2 times, and the number 9 3 times. There's going to be a lot of S words in there, and their solve might have S words, but I'm thinking if it's a solve, it's going to be something like, hey, email this something at something.com, or something along that lines. But another thing is, even with the Beale cipher, like I said, E's are the most common. And so I was trying to group these numbers, and I'm showing you my graph page, but then I also went, let me take this down. If you look on my TV, I got a big spreadsheet, and I did put everything into the spreadsheet so I could work with it easier. And in the spreadsheet, I actually wrote down the code in, you know, all 73 characters in a row. Now, with a Beale cipher, let's say you have a word like keep, K-E-E-P. So you go to your 65, and I'm assuming it's a 65 word. It could be 65 letters, which is a whole different ballgame. But a 65 word key, and you know you got to find a word that begins with the letter K. And then you use that word, and now you have two E's in a row. And so you look for a word that begins with the letter E, and then you look for another word that begins with the letter E, and that way you have two numbers that are separate. So you don't give away the fact that keep has K-E-E-P. So you're going to have four different numbers, because P will be a different number altogether. You'll have four different numbers. So someone will be able to look at that and go, oh, there's no, you know, because, you know, like on a Caesar cipher or something else, you might have two in a row that are the same. And that's what the Beale cipher can eliminate. But like I said, I don't know if you guys can see this. Here, I'm going to go ahead and pause it. So here's the last part of my spreadsheet. And if you look right here, and this is such high-tech stuff, there were two 30s in a row. And like I said, you know, this is 73 characters, and I wrote them all in order here. And at the very end, like I said, people get tired of counting. And unfortunately, my camera won't switch from the front camera to the back camera while you're recording. But people get tired of counting. And so they got to the very end, and they needed two letter E's. And instead of going through and counting again, they just use the number twice. And I think that gives something away. So there's two 30s in a row. And, you know, most... And you could do this a couple ways. There's not very many letters in the English language that end up with two letters in a row and just one letter at the end. And I put in EE, and that's why I said the word keep. So that what words have EE in the middle. And I'm just guessing, because the pictures have opals in them, I put opals to keep at the bottom there. You know, like email such and such, and these opals to keep. You know, or something along that line. And then, because the numbers, once a number is assigned to a letter, it should always be assigned to that letter if you're using the Beale cipher correctly. So if 30 is E, then all the instances of 30 in the cipher is going to be E. And if 44, which is the last digit, is P, then all the instances of 44 is going to be P. And then if 6 is K, then all the instances are K. But remember, 6 is that one character that stood out, because in every instance of the words, well, in the single digit instances of the word 6, they're colored in, and then there's an instance of the word 9, of the letter 9 that's colored in, and a 6 in, what was it, 65? That was colored in, or 64. So 6 obviously stands out. I did some Googling. I tried to anagram, just a second here, let me get this. I tried to anagram. Let me get it up here. I actually have this on my desktop, but I'm not thinking straight. I did just drink half a bottle of rum, which helps me think clearly. I did just anagram the author's name, because it's not really a name, Naomi Speck, Naimospeck, and that just struck me as being an anagram. I tried to anagram that, and it came up with so many different things, and you don't really need to sit down and anagram it, but there's anagram generators, but there were so many anagrams that I barely got halfway through, and it was like I hit my 65,000 limit on anagrams just for Naomi Speck. and I am old. Neil spec. You Google that, you don't get anything. I Googled a piece of the New World. I didn't come up with too much. I used Shazam on the song, and what I got was, did I put that up here somewhere? I got something really weird. It got, it came up with Baby Snakes, a song called Do You. In fact, it's on my phone, which I'm recording with. It's Do You by the Baby Snakes, and I couldn't find, and Shazam did that once. I went through the song again, and then Shazam kept saying no, nothing found. And I'm like, why did it find something the first time, but then nothing found all the other times? But the first time, it did come up with something called Do You the Baby Snakes, and I could not find that anywhere. There's a couple of there's Frank Zappa sings a song called Baby Snakes, but it's not the song. In fact, I can play it here. That's not even close to the song that's in the video. So yeah, there's just a lot of things to look at here. The one thing that gets me is that it just seems like it's such an obvious Beale cipher. It just really does. But there's, a Beale cipher, and they call it the Beale cipher because of the historical ciphers that Beale wrote, where one cipher described the treasure, one cipher described where it is, and then the third cipher described who gets the treasure. And the first cipher was solved. The second two ciphers were never solved. I know somebody did an analysis of those, and they found that they believe it to be a hoax, because the third cipher, which is supposed to explain who gets the treasure, because the treasure was like payment for work done, there wasn't enough digits in that to name more than just a couple people, and they know that he supposedly said 20 people are supposed to get this treasure, and there was no way that third cipher could name out 20 people. So they think, the first treasure, or the first Beale cipher, was solvable just so he could sell the ciphers, because he sold it in a booklet, and people were buying it to try to solve the second two ciphers. And I agree with that. I've read big thick books about the Beale cipher, because that was like the first cipher when I was a little kid that I glommed onto and I couldn't let go of. And so I read lots of stories, lots of books. I've seen lots of documentaries about the Beale cipher. I agree with them that I believe that it's a hoax. There was never a treasure buried. But the name Beale cipher came to mean take a block of something, and in the case of the Beale ciphers, I believe it was the Declaration of Independence. Or was it the Constitution? One or the other. And you take the first letter, you number all the words, and you take the first letter of each word, and that was how Beale did it. But you can also, and I've done this on the back cover of my book, where you take every letter in the phrase. If you got a shorter phrase, there might not be enough first letters to spell out what you need. So it's either a 65 word something we're looking for, or longer, and they only use the first 65. They did use the number 65 twice, and the number 64 once, and then, like I said, there's this whole block where they didn't use anything, and that's very typical in a Beale cipher. When someone writes a Beale cipher, like I said, they'll use all the first ones, and then they get tired of counting all the way through. But it just screams Beale cipher. So I'm either looking for something that's 65 characters long, or I'm looking for something that's 65 words long. So in regards, the only post that the author did said everything is right here. So to me, that says everything should be right there. So I might be looking up the wrong tree here, but there's other things I can do. I could plug this into a hexadecimal converter and stuff, and see if that comes up with anything. But there's certain things that don't match up, because if you're going to go through a converter, there wouldn't be any single digits. I know Michael Stather had a puzzle that was, it was column, and I remembered this correctly from the first part of the video. There was columns of 13, but to solve that one, you need pairs of numbers, and again, there's a lot of single-digit numbers in here, so it's not a pairing. It's not a. I don't think it's a probably be a square or anything like that. But 65 does break down into 5 rows of 13 or 13 rows of 5, however we're going to put it. And I got that on my spreadsheet. And I've just been doing what I did when I got done with the kitty litter boxes. I started doing the counting, like, how many words begin with S, how many words begin with T, how many words begin with E. And then, you're plugging that into, because not many words begin with E, but you need the letter E because that's the most used word in the alphabet. So you're going to end up with a lot of first, because, how do I explain? So out of 65 words, you might only have 10 that begin with the letter E. So you have a short list of numbers that begin with the letter E, but you need to have a lot of letter E's in your solve, so that short list of numbers is going to be used over and over again. And like I said, there's some numbers in here that, and I think 4 is the highest actually. There's a couple 4s in there. There's some numbers in there that were used higher, and those might have been the words that started with E, and so they needed an E. And 30 was one of them, and like I said, the double letters at the end, 30 is one of the most common double letters. Could also be double O, double P. But double P usually is followed by more letters than one, and this is one letter. So keep, seep, poop. It's got to be double letters with only one letter at the end. So anyway, I'm still having fun with this. I'm sure whoever wrote this is listening to this going, yeah, oh my goodness, you're way off base. But it just reeks of a Beale cipher. And so I've gone through and I did, I made columns of 13, and I tried to do a substitution cipher with 5 columns of 13 and 13 columns of 5, and putting the alphabet in there in various ways. And that didn't seem to work. And what I need to do now is maybe find out what is 65 characters or 65 words long that you can get from this video. I was thinking it might be the music, but the music has no words to it, and I can't find a song associated with the music. I'm almost under the assumption of it was one of the free songs that YouTube provides for your videos. But I can't get Shazam. Shazam came up with that one answer, and every single time I do it now, Shazam says not found. So I'm just really curious as what, maybe my cats were singing in the background and it picked up. But yeah, like I just I'm going to keep going under the assumption that it's some kind of Beale cipher, and I'm using my techniques, like I said, using the S's and T's, and then fewer E's but more E's in the solve, and just try to number crunch it and try to, sometimes it's guessing, and like I said, I hate guessing, but like I said, I guessed at opals to keep as the last 3 words, because once you use the K, E, E, P, if you assume 30 is E, because it comes up, it's the higher frequency. If it's P at the end, the P fits up above for opals, and then that O fits in something else, and then the A fits, and so it's guesswork basically, but it doesn't fit into the rest of the poem, or the rest of the solve. So yeah, I might try some different double letter words on the end there. Like I said, once you have that double letter word, you have 4 of the digits. You can take those 4 digits and plug them in up above, and then try to do just some frequency analysis to try to get other words out of it. And once you have other words, then you have what other numbers equal, and you can plug those in and slowly you get to solve the form. So that's what I'm about to do. It's late at night now, but like I said, I've had some rum, I've had some grape juice, and my cats are settling down for the night finally. And oh, I got a new light bulb. Oh, it's not on. I got a new light bulb for Don Juan. That's a vintage style light bulb with the orange glowing filaments, and now I just need a lampshade. I'm not sure what kind of lampshade that would have had. I'm gonna look that up. But yeah, this has been interesting. It's been fun, and I'm gonna keep going on it now.